a planet at war over Earth's liquid.
We fight, kill, and die for oil because a century-old power system, political, financial, and technological, was built to depend on it, and those who profit from that system have every reason to keep us hooked. Costs and pollution if we choose to scale them. Picture this: a child in Basra breathing fumes from a burning oil field, a worker in Lagos standing in line for fuel he can barely afford, and an investor in Houston watching their oil stocks spike when a pipeline is bombed. We have fought global wars over it, toppled governments for it, and built entire national identities around it. And peacekeeping missions that mysteriously always occur where pipelines and reserves sit. Research labs and engineers are proving that engines can run on hydrogen derived from water, with near zero emissions and rapidly improving performance, yet these systems remain marginal compared to the juggernaut of oil. We do not fight for oil because it is the only way to power our world. We fight for it because our institutions, contracts, and geopolitics are deeply entrenched in it. Oil is not just fuel, it is a powerful lever. The nation that controls oil routes controls the price of shipping, food, manufacturing, and even the ability of other militaries to move. That leverage translates into geopolitical power, and power attracts both politicians and investors. Oil companies are among the most profitable entities in human history and are deeply intertwined with banks, pension funds, and national budgets. Their profits fund lobbying, think tanks, political campaigns, and media narratives that portray oil as necessary and alternatives as experimental or too risky. Meanwhile, militaries train to secure energy supply lines, which is a sanitized phrase for controlling other nations' resources with force when needed. Another layer is psychological. People fear change that might disrupt jobs, markets, or their daily routines. Oil infrastructure is visible and familiar: gas stations, refineries, pipelines, while emerging water-derived hydrogen systems sound abstract or sci-fi, which makes them easier to dismiss or ridicule. That cultural bias makes the status quo feel safer, even as it creates climate disasters and conflict.
To use water as an energy source, you must input energy, usually electricity, to split it into hydrogen and oxygen by electrolysis. That hydrogen can then be burned in an engine or used in a fuel cell.
When people say, run on water, what they often mean is, use water as the feedstock to generate hydrogen on demand. Recent work explores exactly this. Systems that generate a hydrogen-rich gas, often called HHO, oxyhydrogen, or Brown's gas, through electrolysis of water. There is also serious research on internal combustion engines designed to run directly on hydrogen, sometimes combined with water injection to cool the combustion chamber and boost efficiency and performance. One prominent engineering firm, AVL, has demonstrated hydrogen engines that use water injection to reach racing-level pressures and efficiency, while promising low emissions. These are not magic or perpetual motion. They are high-efficiency combustion systems using hydrogen as the fuel and water as part of the thermal management. Finally, major automakers such as Toyota have experimented with hydrogen engines, and more recently, with concepts that perform real-time electrolysis, splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen in the vehicle to avoid high-pressure hydrogen tanks and large battery packs. These designs aim to produce hydrogen on demand from a water tank using high-efficiency electrodes, then burn the hydrogen in engines derived from current internal combustion platforms. So the truthful framing is, we now have technologies that can use water as the source of hydrogen fuel on board. Dependence on fossil oil if the electricity feeding those systems comes from clean sources. Because this topic is emotionally charged, it has attracted both visionary engineers and outright frauds. In the 1980s, Stanley Meyer claimed to have built a water fuel cell that allowed a car to run essentially on water, with media coverage of a dune buggy allegedly crossing the United States on just a few gallons. However, when his technology was challenged in court, it was found to be fraudulent and described as a perpetual motion claim that violated basic thermodynamics, and Meyer lost the case. Losses in electrolysis and combustion ensure you always get less. Any claim that water alone without an external energy source can power a car indefinitely is violating conservation of energy. This is why many water car stories are either misrepresented, incomplete, or outright deceptive. Yet within the noise of pseudoscience, there are legitimate research efforts on hydrogen on-demand systems. These do not claim free energy. They aim to improve practicality and safety by avoiding large hydrogen tanks and using onboard electrolysis instead. For example, research on HHO, hydrogen-oxygen enrichment for gasoline or diesel engines shows potential reductions in emissions and modest gains in efficiency by using a small amount of hydrogen produced from water to stabilize and enhance combustion. The tragedy is that past frauds and exaggerated claims now make it easier for incumbents to dismiss credible breakthroughs. Whenever a new concept about water-derived fuel appears, opponents can simply say, "This is another Stanley Meyer," and many people stop listening. That social memory becomes a shield for the status quo. Despite the noise, several concrete technological pathways are emerging that use water as the hydrogen source, with serious engineering and peer-reviewed work behind them. Companies like AVL have developed hydrogen-fueled engines that integrate water injection into the air intake or combustion chamber. The water helps cool the mixture, allowing higher compression ratios and greater efficiency while controlling NOx emissions. Early data suggests these engines can rival or exceed conventional gasoline engines in power while offering much lower emissions, particularly when the hydrogen is produced from renewable electricity. In this architecture, the engine runs on hydrogen, but water plays a crucial role in enabling high performance and durability. The practical benefit is that existing engine manufacturing know-how can be partly retained, easing the transition away from oil. Research groups have tested onboard electrolyzers that split water into a hydrogen-oxygen mixture, HHO, and inject small amounts into the intake of conventional engines. Studies report improved combustion efficiency in gasoline and diesel engines, reduced CO, HC, and sometimes OX emissions under certain conditions. Potential fuel savings, though the net benefit depends heavily on how efficiently the HHO is produced. In one 2025 study, researchers investigated on-demand hydrogen enrichment via alkaline electrolysis, focusing on emissions, torque, horsepower, efficiency, and economic feasibility in a commercial vehicle application. These systems are not pure water engines, but they leverage water to produce a combustion enhancer that can lower fossil fuel consumption and pollution. Media and analysis around Toyota's recent work describe an engine that generates hydrogen on demand from water through high-efficiency electrolysis inside the vehicle. Rather than filling a high-pressure hydrogen tank, the driver fills a water reservoir. When the engine runs, voltage applied to electrodes splits the water, producing hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen is then burned in a modified internal combustion engine, while oxygen and water vapor form the exhaust. Beyond vehicles, hydrogen-assisted combustion is being explored in natural gas engines for cogeneration, where adding hydrogen produced from water allows ultra-lean operation that virtually eliminates NOx emissions and extends spark plug life. Similar ideas could retrofit existing power plants and industrial engines, using water-derived hydrogen to significantly reduce pollution without entirely discarding current infrastructure. These technologies are not fantasies. They are engineering pathways that exist on a spectrum from lab prototypes to early commercial trials. What they all share is the potential to reduce or replace fossil oil as the primary fuel, provided we invest properly. Why haven't we switched already? If the basic science is sound and promising prototypes exist, why isn't every car already running on hydrogen from water? The answer lies in a web of infrastructure lock-in, financial incentives, and political resistance. First, infrastructure. Global oil systems have had over a century of control and investment. We have refineries, pipelines, shipping fleets, service stations, and financial instruments, all finely tuned around oil. It is redesigning energy production, distribution, and regulation. Even an approach like on-demand electrolysis still demands robust electricity sources, new components, safety standards, and maintenance know-how. Second, economics and vested interests. Oil companies and petroleum exporting states derive enormous revenue and geopolitical leverage from continued dependence on oil. Any technology that threatens to undermine oil demand is a direct threat to stock valuations, national budgets, and political power. It should not surprise us that many of these actors fund campaigns to doubt or delay, sabotage, and destroy alternatives. Whether those are battery electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cells, or hydrogen from water engines. Or media narratives highlighting every flaw in new systems while downplaying oil's catastrophic impacts. Third, path dependence and public perception. People and policymakers often choose the path that looks least disruptive in the short term. That can leave less room for parallel exploration of hydrogen engines, water-based hydrogen systems, and hybrid solutions, even when those might better suit certain regions or industries. Finally, technical and efficiency challenges. Hydrogen storage, safety, and infrastructure remain non-trivial challenges. That said, these hurdles are engineering problems, not laws of nature, and we have already started to make progress on them. Audience question. When you look at this mix of infrastructure, money, and perception, where do you think the biggest barrier lies? Technology, politics, or our own unwillingness to demand change? How water-based hydrogen tech could reduce war, save money, and cut pollution. Imagine an energy system where nations are less dependent on a few oil-rich regions and instead generate fuel locally from water and renewable electricity. Hydrogen from water systems offer exactly that possibility. Fuel derived from a resource abundant in most of the world, powered by sun, wind, hydro, or other clean sources. Reducing resource wars. Oil's geopolitics stem from its concentration. A limited number of regions have large, easily extractable reserves, which gives them outsized strategic importance. In contrast, water and renewable energy potential are much more widely distributed. If countries can produce hydrogen from their own water supplies using renewables, their vulnerability to foreign oil shocks decreases dramatically. This shift would reduce incentives for military interventions framed as protecting energy security. Instead of protecting tankers and pipelines crossing conflict zones, states could focus on defending distributed domestic infrastructure. While no technology can end all wars, reducing the strategic value of oil fields would remove a major driver of conflict. Saving money over the long term. On the consumer side, vehicles running on hydrogen from water could, once mature. Early research on hydrogen enrichment already shows improved efficiency and reduced engine wear by enabling cleaner combustion. In stationary applications, hydrogen-assisted engines can extend component life and reduce pollution control costs. At the national level, countries that currently spend huge portions of their budget on oil imports could reallocate that money to domestic infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Cleaning the air and stabilizing the climate. Hydrogen engines fueled by water-derived hydrogen emit mainly water vapor and small amounts of NOx, which can be mitigated with proper design and water injection. HO enrichment systems reduce CO and HC emissions and can lower total fuel consumption, directly cutting greenhouse gas outputs. When hydrogen is produced with renewable electricity, life cycle CO2 emissions drop dramatically compared to oil, helping stabilize the climate. The public health benefits are enormous. Less particulate matter, fewer respiratory diseases, and cleaner urban air. Every avoided asthma attack, cancer case, or cardiovascular event is a human life improved or saved and a cost not borne by families and health systems. Would health and environmental benefits be enough to persuade you even if the technology feels new? What you not supposed to ask there is a dangerous question many people never ask out loud. If these technologies exist, who benefits from keeping them small? It becomes harder to accept the story that oil is simply what works best. Instead, it is a systemic pattern. Investors prioritize short-term returns on existing oil assets. Politicians fear the disruption that a rapid transition could cause in jobs and markets. Media outlets dependent on advertising from automotive and energy companies are cautious about narratives that might alienate key sponsors. The public, burned by past scams like Stanley Meyer's fraudulent claims, is primed to distrust any bold water-based fuel idea. The result is a slow-motion suppression, not by secrecy, but by inertia and selective attention. Real breakthroughs are underfunded, over-scrutinized, and siloed. Oil expansion is normalized and accelerated. Do you feel more compelled to dig deeper or more overwhelmed? While others decide that our children will grow up under skies darkened by oil smoke and crises fueled by resource wars. The path away from this is not believing in magical water cars that violate physics. It is demanding massive investment in real hydrogen from water technologies. Here is what a rational collective response looks like. 1. Demand transparency and funding for credible research and hydrogen-assisted combustion systems. 2. Push your politicians to reframe energy security. Renewable energy and water-derived fuels, not endless military spending to secure foreign oil. 3. Support early adopters and local projects. back pilot programs that deploy hydrogen-assisted engines in buses, trucks, or stationary generators. When your city or region experiments with these technologies, learn the basics of hydrogen chemistry and energy efficiency so you can evaluate claims intelligently and help others do the same. What you share online, what you teach your children, and what you demand at the ballot box. The fact that we still burn ancient fossils and fight over their last deposits is not a law of physics. It is a collective moral and political failure. Hydrogen from water technologies are not a silver bullet, but they are one of the clearest, most concrete ways to break oil's grip on our economies, our politics, and our lives. I knew we were killing each other for oil, and I did nothing. Or, I saw another path, and I chose to push for it, loudly, relentlessly, with others.
Please tell me what you think and how you feel about this issue. Analyze it, brainstorm it, debate it, and if you like it, please share it. Thank you for watching. I truly and highly appreciate you, and God bless you.